Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And this time, I don't apologize for the length. I apologize for the brevity of this message. I've had a lot to do today. I got into Riyadh last night. My nephew came, got me. I stayed there. And then today we went and found a place for me to stay for tonight because I could have stayed another night, but I came, it just worked out. I wound up with a place tonight, although it did have to pay, but and it's okay. But then additionally, I had tomorrow I've got to go and get something that's a little bit longer term, inshallah. I've asked on Facebook for the Muslims to supplicate for me. One did, and I'm asking you Muslims that are hearing me through this audience, either YouTube or Odyssey, to supplicate for me. And you have, and I thank you for that. I'm not going to be doing any editing on this message. I can't right now. Getting the laptop out will be too much to do, only to have to pack it back up tomorrow. So you see the title of this, and I'll get right to it. And first off, as I started to record this, the call to prayer began to sound. I don't know if you can hear it coming through the window or not. If not, I mean, there are videos of me, an actual video where I was about a little under a month ago, where I was walking to work and I showed the walk, and you can tell that I'm not in the States. So if Tanya TKO is the name of the one with the blonde hair that's always talking down about passport bros and any other BMPTs by extension, tell her to listen to this and eat her mother cuss word heart out. Because I'm actually here now. I've been here for 9 years. Started recording some things in 2015, but really started in 2019 for the Manosphere. I'm not the only one. Tanya TKO, in order to make her points, has to intentionally ignore Austin Holloman because he's black and because he's a man with a passport and he's Western, and he ain't dealing with the Western female shuck fit no more. Black or white, he ain't dealing with it. He didn't limit it to black women or white women. He didn't limit it to British or American women. He said it's a Western woman problem, and it is. It is a first world thing. You develop societies, this is what the hell you get. The answer to that, I've already said what it is, but I'm going to tell you that one of the reasons why it's creeping in over here is because people are abandoning the answer. The Muslims are abandoning Islam piecemeal. And that's why feminism can creep in. That's another topic, though, for another day. The Hyena Hypocrisy is when they completely ignore the proof that some of us are abroad. When they completely ignore evidence in others' cases that that guy is abroad. When they point to certain things and conveniently leave out others, like, for instance, when they point to the gentleman that got killed in Santiago, Chile, who never identified himself as passport bro or any other BMPT, but was traveling and got stabbed by a bunch of white Chileans because he photographed something and they didn't want whatever it was photographed. And they came out and killed him. And so now all of a sudden we're supposed to really consider this to be a failure on our parts. Stop and think about that and consider that. Why the hell should we? Why should we be nice about stuff like that when people do these things, when people ignore truths and realities for that purpose? I don't think we should. I think we should act a mother cuss word fool every mother cuss word time. That's not all. There's also a scenario in a situation in which a Chinese man killed a Nigerian woman. This was in Kano, Nigeria. None of them were ADOS. This is one reason that we're not walking up to sisters talking about divesting and rubbing this in their face, but we know it. I want you all to understand that this is actually a valid reason to rub in sisters' face when they talk about divesting, although they're free to divest legally. What I want y'all to understand is that men from certain cultures who individually choose not to be racist are still programmed to not let black women get away with certain things. This man has never killed any Chinese woman. If he was, he would have been in prison for it and already executed probably. Goes to Nigeria, kills a Nigerian woman because after what he spent on her, she chose to still marry a local man, divorced that man, didn't go back to him and even tell him that she divorced him. This is partially based on race, even if this man does not hate her. And he became Muslim. So I'm telling you about my Muslim brother, but this is a subconscious thing on the part of many people. I also want you all to understand, too, that you've shown you are superior, morally speaking, in many ways. Number one, based on how you choose. She can have a high body count. You can't even be a nice guy. You overlook the high body counts in many cases in other men's kids. She can't even overlook your inexperience because you're a nice guy and you don't have the body count she does. And they want to turn around and act like you're morally deficient, and that's why they have to be with somebody else every mother cuss word time and day. I also want to point out to you all one other thing. And this is where we need to start being one-sided in exchange. And I've talked about this before. And if you're if you're one of my Black John subscribers, sit tight. I'm working on something. And I'll make it available on Odyssey behind the paywall for about $1, inshallah. I'd like for you all to sit tight and hold on to a particular notion we have. And that is this. Do not not notice when a woman of another race calls herself spicy. Notice it. Don't not notice it. Don't be blue pill for these women because they're not Western or because they're not black. And most of us aren't. But I do want you to let them get away with certain things. Yeah, it sounds like I'm telling you men what to do. I'm not really telling you. I'm just saying this is what I want you to do. But here's why I advise you to actually let them get away with just a little bit. And that is this. And when I say certain things, I mean in terms of presentation, not so much substance, but let them get away with certain things in terms of presentation. The reason being, when that sister says, I'm a woman, I got spice and sass, I'm a lot to handle, you should be able to handle me. You understand that hyena bitch aggression is going to be aimed at the guy that doesn't deserve it at all. And it's going to be aimed unprovoked. She always aims it where it doesn't belong for the reasons it doesn't belong. That's what it is. When Pinkbook Lessons did the video on that lady that got the DNA test done through the court system in Texas, I want you all to understand that that lady did not pick that man to be her baby daddy, even though he was violent. It is because he's violent. That's what that was about. I keep telling you all this. When you understand it, it makes a big difference. Despite how that woman looks, she would have a nasty, funky, filthy, stank attitude for most of us, even though that would really undo whatever she wants. She still would have it. When the sister talks about her attitude and her sass and her spice and you need to be able to handle me, that's what she means. When the Filipina or the Latina talks about their spice, they don't just, well, the traditional Latinas, that is, don't just turn around and aim it at the nice guy. Now, if they don't want the nice guy, they might leave him be. The westernized one, well, she'll cheat on the nice guy. I already know that. I've been there before. I've watched what guys were talking about. I mean, I've never dated a Latina, but I've listened to the men and their complaints. And that's usually when they've been in the United States for a while. But I'm telling you now, when the traditional Latin American or the Filipina claps back at these sisters like they're beginning to do, and they say something about their attitude and their spice, and they show that they have an attitude, let it go. Because, for one, they're clapping back at the sisters who've been sitting up lying about us all this mother cuss word time. They ain't clapping at us. They ain't blaming us for stuff we didn't do. Sisters done had this nasty, stank, filthy, funky attitude against us, especially those of us that didn't deserve it for the longest, for no good mother cuss word reason at all. They've been like that non-stop, incessantly. It never stops. It never goes away. They never quit. They never change. They never tune it down. Unless, of course, they're doing it only because they've gotten fat, filthy, funky, and they got other men's kids, maybe a disease and some debt. Then they might. But you let them be young, childless, nice to look at, and they're also going to be childish and just all kind of attitude aimed at you when you didn't provoke it. This is important for you to take notice of, gentlemen. And this is why what we need to fight back with seems like hypocrisy, but it's not. That with which we should be fighting back isn't hypocrisy. It's right. It's just plain flat out right. But it's going to seem like hypocrisy because you tolerate things in terms of presentation from other women you're not going to tolerate from sisters. And I ain't going to lie to you. I'm not going to. The minute I see a head roll, a neck roll, an eye roll, or a finger snap in a circle from a sister, she has no chance, not only with me, she has no chance with any man in my family over whom I've ever been responsible and I'm allowed to advise. She has none. A Filipina can roll her neck a few times. I watch her, but she could roll her neck a few times. And granted, this doesn't really apply to me anyway. Why? Well, I'm married to an East African lady who doesn't do the neck rolling, finger snapping. And by the way, for the business that I've started, I needed, I had $2,300 US to pay off for one fee. And then I'll have to pump some more into it, by the month piecemeal. But let me explain something about that too. My wife offered. And I went ahead and accepted, but I never had to go to her and say, listen, can I borrow? No, she offered, and she offered again and again and again and again and again before I went ahead and accepted. She didn't have to do that. But I want you guys to understand that I've lived with her long enough to know that she's not very likely to just hold it over my head unless I just really became irresponsible and never paid. If I'm making the effort, I don't think she would hold it over my head. She's put in enough time for me to trust her enough for me to borrow money from her, under a high likelihood that I will be able to pay her back. The other thing, too, is that if I passed away before I was able to pay her back, then she and one of my heirs share the business. The other thing, too, is this. I mention this because I already know that with a Western sister, they look for something like that so that they don't have to listen to you and submit. They pick the guy that is in a position like this, and they know what they're doing. BGS talked about it. Edwards talked about it. I want you to look at that clip again. It's at the beginning of the last two BGS uploads, and you'll see why I recorded this. That sister said in the debate with those two guys in the 70s, see, we women, we're going to do to you what you allow us, whether we want to or not. That's our nature. But you guys need to, that's where we stop right there. She's saying that women get to be excused because of their nature, which is really more socialization than nature anyway. They get to be kids. Kids always test boundaries, and that's not always right. But kids have a reason for doing it. Not always right, but you know what that's about. Kids are learning society and people and boundaries and limits. Eventually, kids learn to stop testing it. She's saying they don't have to grow up and ever be adults because they're women. That's what that lady said back then. And that's part of the reason why I decided to go ahead and record about this. And again, first I was going to apologize for the brevity. Now I apologize for the length of time, and I apologize for not adding anything else to this, to the video. No background tracks, no animation, but I don't have the time to do that now. I've got stuff I got to do. I'm already late with some other things. I hope that what I've said has benefited, though. Thank you for listening to the Blacktreon subscribers. I'm going to try to find a way to upload directly from the phone to Patreon. What's coming next on Patreon is what I want to talk about there next is a way that you can combine the benefits of moving in stealth with the shock value of announcing and roaring your departure. I'm going to try to combine the two for you and upload it to Blacktreon and maybe put it on Odyssey 2 behind the paywall. I sincerely mean it from the bottom of my black heart and from the depth of my black mind when I say that I hope that what I've recorded so far and what I will record then, inshallah, benefits you who listen. And that you know someone else with whom you can share it and they can benefit. So thanks for bearing with me this time. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. And thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.